spooky hello. No, it's not a Halloween episode. A ghostly hello.
It is a ghostly hello. It's a hello, fellow friend.
Do you ever think ghosts get like annoyed at stereotypes? You know, like they're just like in the background being like, we don't talk like that.
Oh, all the time. we don't go, oh, we go, ah, and it's completely different. We should know that.
Yeah, they're like, we don't go, ooh, what do? Do you just say, hey? And we're like, yeah.
No, they just scream into the void. Anyway, right. So, today...
What are we talking about today, Shannon?
So today, I'm going to do a little dive into spiritualism. Just a little dip.
A little dive? A little like, are we going to do like a front flip?
No, we're going to dip the toes in.
Is it like an Olympian dive?
No, we're going to dip the toes in, have a little paddle around, and probably get out all angry because our hair gets wet or something, I don't know.
Dip our toe into like the...
Into the ectoplasm.
River Styx. I was like, what's a famous ghost water body? And I'm like, completely blank for the River Styx.
Clearly, it couldn't be anything else. So... we're just gonna, this kind of is touching back to our Victorian deep dive because I'm looking at spiritualism in the sense of when it became a thing in modern day. Does that make sense? Because obviously now it's completely different. Like, spiritualism isn't really what it was now. If someone says that they're a spiritualist, it's usually like, you know, crystals, healing, all the fun stuff. But obviously it kind of started...
Okay, I have a few questions.
Yeah.
Just before we start, just so I can figure out where we are. Firstly, I didn't know people called themselves spiritualists today, in the sense of crystals and stuff.
Yeah, there's people that are like, oh, I'm a spirituality, like spiritual, like that's what that relates to now.
I don't know, I've never heard it. I've heard people say they're a spiritual person.
Yeah.
But I've literally never heard the word spiritualism in conversation ever. And I have crystal friends.
This is only what I found through researching the older spiritualism, is that apparently there's a more modern-y spiritualist, and that is the type of person that we're on about, but I haven't done any research into that, so don't quote me on that. That's just what I found in my research. Does that make sense?
That's fine. I was just curious. Second thing, is spiritualism, now I don't know a lot about it, so obviously this specifically is Victorian spiritualism. Is that like something similar from older history, you know, like often...
We're gonna get into stuff.
Okay, spoilers, sorry. Go ahead, teach me.
If you let me do the episode.
Sorry, I just wanted some background so I could figure out where I was in the timeline.
We will discuss, but first let me start. So, spiritualism in religion is a movement based on the belief that departed souls can interact with the living. Spiritualists sought to make contact with the dead, usually through the assistance of a medium, who is a person believed to have the ability to contact spirits directly. Some mediums worked while in a trance-like state, and some claimed to be a catalyst for various paranormal physical phenomenon, including the materializing or moving of objects, that kind of thing, through which the spirits announced their presence. So that's just a little brief. That's what spiritualism is. Okay? Did I see crispy around the background? Okay.
Oh, you can see a little head.
A little head, a little crisp. Little crisp. So crisp. A little crisp. So, throughout history, various forms of communicating with discarnate spirits of the recently deceased have been observed in communities around the world, but the purpose of such communication and the understanding of the nature of spirit existence varies considerably. Modern spiritualists point to the ancient accounts of spiritual contact in the Bible, so the visit of Saul, the king of Israel, to the so-called witch of Endor, in the course of which the late prophet Samuel appeared. Apparently that's in Samuel 28, and the story of Transfiguration, in which Moses and Elijah appeared to 3 of Jesus' apostles, that's in Matthew 17, Mark 9. Some phenomena associated with mediums were found among those regarded in the Middle Ages as well, such as possessed by devils, so e.g. levitation, speaking in languages unknown to the speaker. Similar phenomena were reported in the witch trials of the early modern period, particularly the appearance of spirits in quasi-material form and the obtaining of knowledge through spirits.
Oh, I'd also like to know discarnate means having no physical body, incorporeal, and is a horror/mystery film from 2018, and you can watch it on Prime Video. So there you go.
Oh, nice. Cheers. Thanks for the little. So that's just a little brief, it's spiritualism's been about for much longer than it has been about. It's just been about in ways that aren't quite as concrete, if that makes sense. So obviously it was related around the witch trials, people saying that things like that. That was their reason for, committing people to death, essentially, because they were communicating with spirits.
We could do a very good dive into the witch trials.
And we could do a very good dive into the witch trials. Future episode coming in. The witch trials.
Spiritualism, it's been mentioned throughout the Bible.
Yeah, so obviously there was accounts in the Bible of different spirits appearing to other people. So ghosts, spirits, spiritualist things have been happening for a long time before spiritualism really kind of became a thing. Modern spiritualism traces its beginning to a series of apparently supernatural events at a farmhouse in Hydesville, New York in 1848. The owner and his family, as well as the previous occupants of the house, had been disturbed by unexplained rasps at night. So, knocking. There was knocking going on.
Was someone just trying to, do vacuum sales or something?
In 1848.
Don't!
In 1848. So...
I didn't register the year.
1848. I have a vacuum cleaner from the future. Ah!
Okay, fine. Someone was trying to do broom sales.
Would you like a broom? Modern spiritualism traces its beginnings to a series of apparently supernatural events at a farmhouse in Hydesville, New York in 1848. The owner and his family, as well as the previous occupants of the house, have been disturbed by unexplained raps at night. After a severe disturbance, the owner's youngest daughter, Kate Fox, was said to have successfully challenged the supposed spirit to repeat in raps the number of times she flipped her fingers.
Flipped?
I'm assuming? I don't know. When it says flipped...
She flipped off the ghost?
That's just what it says here.
Bruh.
She flipped her fingers.
Would you ever flip off a ghost?
I would no doubt flip off a ghost. That's a dumb question.
If, for months on end, right, you heard vague knocking, just just flip it off.
Yeah, I'd flip off a ghost. I don't... Depends what the ghost was, though. If it was someone I loved, a long-lost family member that's died or something, then obviously no.
Well, you wouldn't know if it was just knocking.
I mean, I can't say anything. I flip my finger at everything that just is an inconvenience. I'll be at work and the till will just do something incorrect and I'll just go... And
Dude, when I drop a spoon, I'm like,
Kate Fox was said to have successfully challenged the supposed spirit to repeat raps the number of times she flipped her fingers. Once communication had apparently been established, a code was agreed upon by which the raps given could answer questions, and the spirit was said to have identified himself as a man who had been murdered in the house.
Okay, so she was probably doing leading questions. Are you a man?
Were you murdered in the house?
The thing is, if it's knocking routinely, she could just time those questions. And also, are we sure it wasn't just a branch against the wall?
The practice of having sittings for communications with spirits spread rapidly from that time, and in the 1860s it was particularly popular in England and France. Kate Fox and one of her sisters, Maggie Fox, devoted much of their lives to acting as mediums in the United States and England. Many other mediums gave similar sittings, and the attempt to communicate with spirits by table turning, in which participants place their hands on a table and wait for it to vibrate or rotate, so that's the old school, seances, became a popular pastime in Victorian drawing room. So seances and these medium things this was just stuff that they were doing in their house to entertain themselves. They were just communicating with dead people. It was a common pastime.
I mean, you need a hobby, don't you? There's no TV back then, and I don't imagine they had many books.
You need a hobby. You don't have TV, you don't have the Switch, you don't have games. I mean, they'll have books, but it would depend on your status, wouldn't it, as well?
Yeah. I don't imagine the books back then were particularly vast.
I mean, I don't know, man. They had a lot of history. Dickens, Frankenstein.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. There's only so many times you can read Dickens.
About Frankenstein.
It's one story.
It's a fantastic story. What about Dracula? Picture of Dorian Gray.
All right, you got me there. I do love the Picture of Dorian Gray.
Alice in Wonderland.
Alice's Adventures in Wonderland.
A lot of Victorian literature that we still hold to very high standards today. So
Yeah, but how often do you read that old literature?
I've read Alice in Wonderland so many times, but not as often as I used to. I've kind of read them now.
That's what I'm saying.
But if you had no other choice, okay, then fine. So you're a Victorian person in Victorian England in your house with all your things.
I've died of consumption.
Not yet. You haven't. It's coming, but not yet. So you're in Victorian England. Friends come round. They have a party game for you to play. They're going to communicate with the dead.
Shannon.
Are you communicating with the dead? Or are you reading the book that you don't want to read because you've read it already?
Okay, we all know for a fact that you come to me, you say, hey, do you want to read this book you've already read, or do you want to communicate with the dead? I'd be like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to take that book and not mess with your, bad curse stuff.
But it's probably not right. Okay. Well, anyway, so this was happening in Victorian drawing rooms. It was a casual thing. People come around for tea and they'd be like, hey, let's communicate with the spirits. A little thing about, because obviously with the rise of spiritualism, it especially became quite popular in England, like in the US, not so much, but in England it did become a very big thing. The unconventional new movement naturally provoked opposition. There were not only verbal condemnations, but occasional mob violence.
Oh.
Church leaders associated spiritualism with witchcraft. Some churches regarded the practices of the spiritualists as part of the forbidden activity of necromancy. A decree of the Holy Office of the Roman Catholic Church in 1898 condemned spiritualistic practices, though it approved of legitimate scientific investigation of related phenomena. Both Protestant and Catholic bodies released a steady stream of anti-spiritualist literature. So obviously, with the rise of spiritualism...
So the church was angry.
The church was angry, because obviously the church was angry because, people are practicing, as they're saying, witchcraft. Although inherently religious, during its first generation, the movement avoided organising as a church. Spiritualist associations began to appear in some areas of the United States in the first decades after the Civil War, and finally formed a nationwide organisation, the National Spiritualist Association, in 1893.
I did not know it would link to the Civil War.
So basically it was just after the Civil War that this line of all happened, because it all kind of stemmed from the Fox sisters in 1848. That's where the modern version of...
Is that the one that is... Do we mention that in the Victorian dive?
The Fox sisters. I have definitely mentioned the Fox sisters. Yeah, they're important. They're pretty important to this movement. So, off the top of my head, a very famous spiritualist that we will know of is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. He was a spiritualist. We mentioned that.
We do mention him in the Victorian one because we mention him with the 12-course meal, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, I think we mentioned spiritualism a bit when I did my dive into Mesmer.
Yes. And that's probably where I brought it up, because I always thought it was really funny. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote possibly the most famous detective that has ever existed, was into this. It's a bit of a juxtaposition. I don't know. Maybe it's just because of the time. Death was so prevalent that... Not prevalent.
Prevalent?
Death was so around that maybe it made more... Prevalent, that's the word. That maybe it made more sense for them to actually, believe in things like this. Which I suppose makes sense. I suppose it depends on your view on it. But yeah, I did think it's quite funny how he makes the most logical detective, but then it's like...
And he never really, Sherlock Holmes wasn't one after doing, I'm going to investigate a ghost. He didn't put that into the stories.
Never, ever. It was very separate from the stories that he wrote, which I appreciate, because obviously you got to separate the art from the artist, there's got to be that line sometimes.
That is true.
Can't be putting all of your stuff in the same thing. We're going to go into a little bit more about the Fox sisters. Because the Fox sisters were kind of the reason why, as we know, spirituality in America kind of took off. Was because of these Fox sisters. So, in 1848, the two younger sisters, this is Catherine, so Kate and Margaretta, who was Maggie, lived with their parents John and Margaret, who were Methodists in Hydesville, New York, a former hamlet that was part of the township of Arcadia in Wayne County, New York, just outside Newark. The girls had been born and raised in or near Consacon, a tiny village in Prince Edward County, Ontario, where their father owned a farm. The family moved to Hydesville, New York in 1847, so a year before the reports were done about the wrappings in the house. The house was reputed to be haunted, yet is reported to have been a prank. The sisters claimed in 1888 that they made the sounds by cracking their knuckles and other joints as other means. But that time, 40 years later, the sisters were famous mediums, obviously. So it did all come out in the end that it was all a hoax. It was all fake. The sisters had... It was all just the sisters basically cracking their knuckles, making their own sounds, and reporting that it was down to the house. So, Marguerite Fox, in her later years, noted that neighbours were sure that the house was haunted, reputedly after the man who had been murdered in the house by an innocent man named Bell. Okay. Kate and Margarita were sent...
Wait. Someone was murdered by an innocent man?
Apparently. Innocent is in brackets.
You can't be murdered by an innocent man. You've been murdered by someone who is then guilty.
That was my thought. By an innocent man named Bell. Kate and Margarita were sent to nearby Rochester during the excitement. Kate to the house of her sister Lee, now the married Lee Fox Fish. What an unfortunate name. And Margarita to the home of her brother David, and the wrappings followed them. Amy and Isaac Post, a radical Quaker couple and long-standing friends of the Fox family, invited the girls into their Rochester home. Immediately convinced of the geniusness of the phenomena, they helped to spread the word among their radical Quaker friends, who became the early core of spiritualists. In this way appeared the association between spiritualism and radical political causes such as abolition, temperance, and equal rights for women. So that's how they started, the Fox sisters. Basically, they got moved into a pair of radical Quaker friends' house, and they believed that what was happening. So these Quakers then spread the message of the Fox sisters to the other Quakers in their in their Quaker group, and they were the first spiritualists. They were the first group, right?
Oh, it was a pyramid scheme.
Not so much pyramid scheme, but more like a cult, because obviously the Fox sisters were like blah blah. Yeah, they were following the two sisters because they thought they were communicating with ghosts. They thought they were communicating with spirits. So, on the 14th of November, 1849, the Fox sisters demonstrated their spiritualist rapping at the Corinthian Hall in Rochester. This was the first demonstration of spiritualism held before a paying public. Inaugurated a long history of public events featured by spiritualist mediums and leaders in the United States and other countries. Kate and Margarita became famous mediums, and they held seances for hundreds of people. Many of these early seances were entirely frivolous, where sitters saw insight into the state of the railway stocks or the issue of love affairs.
Ooh.
So people would go in and they were asking the spirits for answers for these kind of questions.
You know what I love about spiritualism back then is that absolutely the questions were definitely like, is my husband cheating on me? Like, I love the thought of these ghosts being so thirsty for the tea, right? That they are like following someone, being like, don't you worry, I am about to find out, hun, what your husband is doing.
I am gonna find out. Don't worry, we'll find out what Jeffrey's doing.
Literally, I like the thought of someone going to like someone, right? Being like, look, I need you to ask the ghosts if they can follow my husband, P.I. style. He might be cheating on me. And the spiritualist is just like, don't worry, I have the perfect one. Jeremy over there, he loves the gossip. He can get all the hot tea. Come back in 3 hours, we will have our answer. He is a trooper.
He gonna get it.
And then, like, just this ghost talking through once. I'm like, okay, sit down. Here it is.
So, he was doing this at 10:18. At 11:15, he was in the brothel. At he was in the...
You let him go out like that? Those socks, those shoes, ew. I mean, yes, he's cheating on you, but the real crime here is the fashion.
How could you? And the thing is, as well, you know as well, though, that in the Victorian era, if there was a PI ghost, the stuff he'd be uncovering wouldn't just be like, oh, he was cheating on me. It would be like he'd be in opium dens and all this kind of thing. And it's like, I would just have a job.
Yeah, but opium dens were really common. So, like, I feel you could just be like, oh, yeah, he was in an opium den. You'd be like, true.
Yeah, but it's still not good, though, is it? Like, or a brothel. It's like, actually, he's secretly Jack the Ripper. That's why he's going out every night. You don't know where he is.
That would be, no, I would absolutely read that book of like a ghost PI stumbling across Jack the Ripper and being like, ooh.
So, Horace Greeley, the prominent publisher and politician, became a kind of protector for them, enabling their movement in higher social circles. The public seances in New York in 1850 attracted notable people, including William Cullen Bryant, George Bancroft, James Phipp. I don't know who any of these people are. So a lot of famous old American Victorian age people. Although Greeley watched over the sisters, the lack of parental supervision was pernicious, as both of the young women began to drink wine.
Sorry, what? Peronicus?
Pernicous. Pernicus?
Pernicious? I think you're trying to say pernicious.
Yeah, that's one.
Highly injurious or destructive.
There we go, pernicious. That's definitely what it is. As both of the young women had begun to drink wine.
Was that not common? Was it not common to drink alcohol underage back then? Like sherry and stuff?
It depends. Was this when America was going through Prohibition?
They wouldn't have access to wine if they were going through Prohibition.
You think that they didn't still have access to things even though they were going through Prohibition?
No, they absolutely did. But I know a lot about the Prohibition through like Jordan because he loves it. It would have been very hard.
We all know such random things in history. None of us know the same thing.
We do, yeah. The timeline is me, the ancient Greeks and Rome, Jordan, Prohibition times specifically, you, the Victorians. We have a full timeline between the three.
We do. Especially with me and being like, oh, English history. Anyway, beginning in 1850, some critics concluded that the girls made the wrappings themselves.
No way, that's crazy.
No way. In 1851, the Reverend C. Chauncey Burr, what a great name, C. Chauncey Burr. Reverend C. Chauncey Burr wrote in the New York Tribune that by cracking toe joints,
no,
the sounds were so loud they could have been heard in a large hall. How can someone crack a toe so loud that the whole hall can hear them? And not only that, it's like, I know that they're saying they've been doing this purposely by like cracking joints and stuff. I can crack fingers and stuff, but it doesn't happen automatically. It's not like something I can just be like, there we go, that's cracked. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah, come on.
Some of my joints crack very loudly, specifically like my hips and my shoulders. They're like big joints. You have to move them. How in the world can you subtly move your toes to crack them? In shoes, I imagine.
For a whole hall. Bear in mind, this is a hall of people. Not a little room. A hall of people. Like an assembly of people.
I'm trying to crack a joint loudly now.
Right? You can't automatically do it. But anyway, so he said that by cracking toe joints, the sound was so loud they could be heard in a large hall. In the same year, investigators from the University of Buffalo concluded that the raps were made by cracking joints of their body and that the raps would not occur if they had cushions under their feet.
Okay, I actually need to know how their toes were so loud. And also, those toes must have been destroyed.
I do not know, but that is...
I've never managed to crack a toe joint.
Oh, I've cracked my toes loads, but not like... I can't... Like, I'm flexing my feet now and they're not cracking. It's not like it's something that automatically happens. It just happens. You know, it's not like I can control it.
Even ankle joints don't crack very often. It's more the ball and socket joints that do.
Mine does.
Really?
Yeah. My left one. So, in 1851, Mrs. Norman Culver, a relative of the Fox family, admitted in a signed statement that she had assisted them during their seances by touching them to indicate when the raps should be made. She also claimed that Kate and Margarita revealed to her the method of producing the raps by snapping their toes and using their knees and ankles. So there's a lot of going on about people being like, these people are fake and this is how they're doing it.
How did people not notice that they were just cracking joints? Okay, right, 1 second. Firstly, right, so they all believed that these two were doing seances and talking to ghosts and everything, right? And
yes.
just by being told. And then they were told it was all fake and they believed that. Like, you need to have a bit more questioning.
Not by being told, but by witnessing it. So obviously they saw tables moving and heard knocked back, and it was like evidence to them. Obviously, this is down the line. This is when they're starting to get their big comeuppance, because obviously it was a business for them. They became well known through this. They ended up travelling to England and France and all that kind of thing, conducting seances and things for loads of people. This is more when people were trying to disprove, which obviously down the line we found out, yes, it was all fake, because of course it was all fake, but this is what people were saying. So lots of people were saying, they've said that this is how they're doing it. Other people are conducting experiments, hence the cushions on their feet can't be there. It's kind of a lot of people turning around and being like, this doesn't seem right. So we're going to go into another one. Charles Grafton Page, a patent examiner and patent advocate, had developed a keen eye for detecting fraudulent claims about science. In his book, Psychomancy, which was published in 1853, Page observed that the rapping sounds came from underneath the girls' long dresses. In 1857, the Boston Courier set up a prize of $500.
Whoa.
Bear in mind, that's a lot of money
Yeah, I was gonna
in
say.
1857. That you set for life, essentially. Well, maybe not, but a lot of money.
You are, because everyone died at 24.
Oh, yeah, true. To any medium who could demonstrate a paranormal ability to their committee. The Fox sisters made an attempt and were investigated by a committee which included the magician John Wyman. The committee concluded the raps were produced by bone and feet movements, and thus the Fox sisters failed the challenge. A report by the Cyber Commission in 1887 stated that after investigating various mediums, including Margarita, the phenomena could have easily been produced by fraudulent methods. The report noted that the raps were heard close to Margarita, and the seance sitter, Professor Furness, had felt pulsations in her foot. Kate was examined by William Crookes, the prominent physicist between 1871 and 1874, who concluded that the raps were genuine. However, Crookes was described as gullible, and the mediums he investigated were caught using trickery. Harry Houdini, actually, as well, the magician who devoted a large part of his life to debunking spiritualist claims, provided this insight. As to the delusion of sound, sound waves are deflected just as light waves are reflected by the intervention of proper medium, and under certain conditions is a difficult thing to locate their source.
You know what I like? Is that I think it's really interesting how these spiritualism lists and stuff was so big that, and it is mentioned in my Mesmer dive, is that they were debunked by, like, such... It was so properly debunked.
People were fuming about it.
Yeah. Whereas now, you know, someone says, I can talk to ghosts. You're not going to get the government being like, I'm going to pay to debunk you.
No, it's not going to happen.
And then the gossip spilling ghost was out of a job.
God, can't put Jeffrey out of a job, man. Can't put Jeffrey out of a job.
And then he became a poltergeist.
Thing is, like, you've got to think about it. And then he became a poltergeist. And then he became a mongoose in the woods.
And then he became a murderer tea-spilling ghost.
I don't know. I do think it's quite interesting how, in this particular period in time, it was obviously everything was very experimental. We had like inventions that were popping out the wazoo, industrial era. In the Victorian era, I think it's interesting how things like spiritualism came up in that era, when it was such an era of discovery and invention and new things, and, you know, industrial revolution, and a crazy time, the Victorian era. So it makes sense that of all the eras, for eras to be like, let's talk to ghosts, it was the Victorians.
I mean, yeah, it was a crazy... You know, they were having smoke enemas.
They were having smoke enemas. There was death around every corner. There were inventions that would literally be put into your home and then they'd kill you because you boiled to death in your own bathwater. It was a time of death and a time of change. So it makes sense to me that spiritualism, even though fake, because it was... You know, they were fake. It was a lot of trickery, still is today. It makes sense that it got popular around that time, because obviously a lot of people were having to deal with loss of loved ones, families, children.
The Industrial Revolution.
Exactly. Logically, it would make sense that people would want to reach out to an afterlife and have some kind of proof that there was something after, I think.
I agree, and I think I say every few episodes that people will always try and find anything that they can that makes the existence that they go through just a bit better.
And it makes sense because it's like, obviously you go through your life, you have your ups and downs, trials, tribulations, traumas, all that great stuff. Different people find different ways of coping with it. Some people will go to religion, some people go to certain policies and politics, other people just make jokes and they become hilarious people. But yeah, no, I do think it does make sense that when you look at the Victorian era in general, it fits in, you know. It's understandable that people would flock to this idea. Anyway, so down to the confession. Confession. Wait, the confession.
The confession. Not to be confused with concession. Or confection.
Obviously, the older sister Lee ended up becoming the manager for Kate and Maggie Fox. Very much was the one that was escorting them around the world, doing seances, all this great stuff. There was a falling out at one point.
Shocking.
Eager to harm Lee as much as possible, the two sisters travelled to New York City, where a reporter offered $1,500 if they would expose their methods and give him an exclusive to the story. Margarita appeared publicly at the New York Academy of Music on October the 21st, 1888, with Kate present. Before an audience of 2,000, Margaret demonstrated how she could produce, at will, raps audible throughout the theatre. Doctors from the audience came on stage to verify that the cracking of her toe joints was the source of the sound. Margarita told her story of the origins of the mysterious rappings in a signed confession given to the press and published in New York World on October the 21st, 1888. In it, she explained the Hydesville events. So, I think that's where we'll leave it for the Fox sisters today.
That was interesting.
Very interesting people, very smart girls, very naughty girls with cracking their toes. But either way, it led to them spawning this movement, really. Like, spiritualism came about because of them. So that's a little dip into spiritualism and the Fox sisters. Have you learned some fun things today?
I feel like I definitely did. The fact that you can crack toe knuckles on demand is what's really sticking with me, so make of that what you will.
And loud enough for a whole auditorium to hear as well as a different kettle of crack.
It is a different kettle of crack.
Different kettle of crack.
It's definitely a phrase.
Kettle of crack. On that note, I'm going to close the episode out. I hope that you've enjoyed this little dive into the Fox sisters and spiritualism. And I mean, we've just been down so many tangents in this episode, so you know, is what it is. But I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you learned something fun. Any topics that you want us to cover in the future, let us know. Let us know. And check out Caffeine Addled Minds on the Instagrams and Caffeine Addled Games on the YouTubes.
And Caffeine Addled Minds on the YouTubes.
Luke can fill us in with the rest. Caffeine Addled Minds, Caffeine Addled Games, and then there's GNS.
This is Shannon's first outro attempt.
First outro attempt. Everything. Just follow us, man. Come on. Help us out. Listen to our things. Very passionate group of people trying to make something here. Do the thing. Patreon. Come on. Help us. Yeah.
I've been Luke. That's been Shannon.
I've been Shannon.
This has been the episode. Check out the description for all our other projects that Shannon tried to tell you about. Bye.
Bye-bye.
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 Did you think that us millennials just didn't talk enough? Well, turns out we actually talk too much, to the point where we have bloopers and bonus bits and extras on every episode. And those can be found on the caffeineaddledminds.co.uk website, a website on the internet, not one of those non-internet websites. So type over to your internet browser, go over to your internet browser and type in caffeineaddledminds.co.uk, where you can find amazing bloopers, bonus bits, and extras from each Doogie Good episode, just like this. This is a clip, by the way.
Why is Luke voice call, video call from Luke from you?
We're on one.
I know. That's why I'm like, what?
Oh.
I'm gonna decline it. Are we still on one?
The Wi-Fi this episode is the biggest struggle.
We're so out of sync, like.
caffeineaddledminds.co.uk. Go to it. Bye.